Please.
Okay.
Oh, you recorded.
Yeah, so whatever you say is going to.
We would like to thank every single one of you. We greatly appreciate all three of you and the two others that are coming on. Our association appreciates you doing this.
Did you move it?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. Greatly appreciate it. We're gonna have more people coming in because this is not our normal room, so. Sure. But I would like to thank Norris Roche. She is the ambassador. We have Martin, and he's one of the attorneys, and Max online. Before we get started, we do have two strategic partners in the room. Debbie, you're up.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Hello, the questions.
Hey, ladies, how are you?
We would like to thank our sponsors and strategic partners that are here. Well, first of all, Stella MLS, who are not with us today. Money Corp, who are not with us today. Tracy Snitus with Colonial Mortgage. Thank you very much for being a business partner and supporter of us. And then to Nina Mills with Focus Solutions. And Nina is going to give us a quick speech on what she can do to help our clients, foreign clients, buying and selling in this country.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave.
Sorry.
Okay. Get it together here.
Got it.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nina Mills. I'm the National Education Director. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
For Purpose Solutions. I'm also part of the Global Council here. So I want to welcome you guys in today. Thank you for coming. I know you had so many things you could have done Thursday afternoon. So it's Thursday, right?
It is.
So I appreciate you being here. But Purpose Solutions is a full service FERPTA company. We actually work with all foreign sellers when they're exiting their real estate ventures here in the US. So we help them with FERPTA forms, we help them get US tax numbers, we do their tax returns, everything from beginning to end. And the other side of our coin, so to speak, is our sister company, which also helps them when they enter the country. So we can actually take care of your client from the day they start to invest to the day they exit the investment. We have the ability to open LLCs, get EINs, advise them how to take ownership of properties here that are most advantageous for them, not only here in the US, but in Argentina in this case, or any other country they may be from. And we're designed to just be here, part of your dream team, to make your transactions with your clients in the US run as smooth as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So after our presentation, like I just said, we're a little bit, we're in a different room today. After the presentation, we will have our wine and cheese, and we'll be having Argentinian pastries, and that'll be across the hall. I hope everyone decides to stay for that. So we're going to begin our presentation. Well, Norris is going to begin the presentation. So Norris Roche is born and raised in Panama. She brings a unique blend of technical expertise, leadership, passion, and real estate profession. After a successful 20-year career as a telecommunications engineer with Sprint Wireless, she transitioned into real estate in 2019, quickly made her mark, earning her Rookie of the Year in 2020. Norris is also a bilingual realtor, fluent in English and Spanish, and has been recognized for her profession, excellent in community service. She has served as the president of Ocala Marion Women's Council, district vice president of Women's Council Florida, and currently serves as our National Association Realtor Global Ambassador to Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay until 2028. When she's not helping her clients achieve their real estate goals, you will find her enjoying the Florida outdoor lifestyle, and she has completed her athletic Ironman 70.3 and remains active with the Ocala Triathlon Club. Welcome, Norris Roche.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here and special to have bilateral from Argentina, Maximiliano Gutz. I am so honored to have you here with us, and also Martin from Argentina. Um, Sadly, he was supposed to be here. We were supposed to be all together live, but Argentinian World Cup stop that. But we'll have that in the future. Hopefully, we'll present some other plans on 2027. As an ambassador, I am honored to represent NAR until 2028. So, and today, I am going to talk very briefly because I have the cream of the cream here. They're going to answer and give us a lot of information with regards to Argentina. So, it is a pleasure again to be here. The Global Ambassador Missions is again to be a primary liaison between the NAR president and the association's bilateral partners assigned countries throughout the world. And our goals is to strengthen our partnership and promote the code of ethics internationally and facilitate referrals in networking between the United States and international members. What is an international realtor member? It's a global bilateral relationship that we have with over 100 local institutions in the associations in over 75 countries. And to be able to be part of it, you have to be a member of the NAR bilateral, so you can join the NAR. So we provide education, marketing, then the members are allowed to use their realtor logo. They also work with referrals. And when it comes to the conventions here, they do have certain discounts to be able to participate on it, specifically on the one that we have in November. So they are allowed to come and bring guests and all that. So that is some of the benefits that we have. So today we're going to talk about Argentina, which is amazing. They just finished the World Cup and it was, oh my God, it was amazing. 39 days of a lot of fun, and we're so happy that Argentina came in second place. They play amazing. And I was there screaming. I lost my voice for a couple of times. So Argentina is one of the Latin American largest countries' economy. They do have a global hub in Buenos Aires. So it's a country highly developed on the real estate market, and is very strong on the agriculture, technicals, and on the tourism sectors. It is also recognized as a world-class theater and quality healthcare, and of course, relaxed life. Some of the questions that, a lot of us ask when it comes to Argentina is how easy it is to buy. How do I buy the property? Is the investment secures? And if Argentina uses the pesos, which is has been the official currency since 1992, but since 1970 they're decided to dollarize in their country. But I'm pretty sure that Max and Martin are going to go deep in the cream of the cream. So yes, you can buy in Argentina. There is a certain restrictions, very few, and that is just on the border zones. And you pay cash. It's the king in Argentina, and you have to pay up front. And I'm pretty sure that Max is going to go in depth in this. And if the investment is safe, yes, private property is legally respected and honored. So it is very secure to buy in there. And again, you have to use the US dollars to buy. Foreigners can buy with some restrictions again. They definitely has to have the CDI, which is a tax number. It's just kind of like our social security here, and is obtained before purchasing the property. In Notary Republic, there it's what is overseeing the transaction, and that is called escribano in Argentina, and we'll go in depth in that. There is no MLS in Argentina. Uh, consumers properties research are conducted through three main portals. As a foreign investor, the terms of buying real estate, you need a valid passport, a second forum ID, which is against the CDI, the clave of the identification, that is the meaning of the CDI, which is again similar to the social security number or tax ID here with us. And that allows you to legally purchase either a home or car, or if you want to buy an airplane. So buying properties in Argentina, very briefly, some of the legal steps to make sure that you're going through the process. It's beginning with an offer, as we do it here, with a letter of intent, along with a deposit that tells you that you are serious. And the second part is offering accepting the offer. And that will take from 2 to 3 days to review the acceptance. They're signing the boleto, which is the sales agreement, legally binding contract that we have here. Signing the escritura, which is the title deed, is one of the final steps. And then it is done in front of the Notary Republic, which is the escribano. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that if you make an offer and the offer is accepted, that later you decide that you want to cancel that offer or that transaction, you will be losing your escrow. So those things that you got to keep in mind, and I know that Max is going to touch on that. Argentina is known for their Latin American traditions, and the Italian and the Spanish particularly. And one of the things that we know about it is the tango. It's intense. And then the love of the football that we call soccer, and the share of the social ritual in the famous asado. That is amazing. So that is one of the social interactions that we have with Argentina. And as you can see here, that famous tango, the typical dress, and the empanadas that I'm going to miss today because we're not there, Max. And here we have Argentina's top 10 destinations that we can see on the map. And I am so honored to definitely pass the baton to Max so he can go ahead and in depth, go ahead and talk more about it. It is a pleasure to have you here, Max. So
Thank you.
So we're going to introduce him.
It's Norris is introducing him and his friend. So go ahead, Norris. Sorry.
So I don't have his, but can you do it on your side,
Yes.
Beth?
So with nearly 30 years of experience in real estate property management, Max is the founder of MGNI, a full service real estate firm serving clients throughout the city, the province of Buenos Aires, a licensed real estate professional, a member of the National Association of Realtors. Max specializes in helping international clients invest confidently in Argentina. His bicultural background is shaped by his international education, American family ties, studied in law, real estate, gives him a unique ability to bridge cultures, guide clients through the cross-border transactions. Through MGNI, Max and his team provide a comprehensive range of services, including investment consulting, property sales, acquisitions, appraisals, property management, legal and financial coordination, creating seamless experience for international investors. Welcome, Max.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that intro. And first of all, thank you very much for having reached out. It certainly is a pleasure. I'm kicking myself because I should be there right now in person. But at first with the flight delays and then later with a little bit of a bout of the flu, which I'm only now getting over. Yeah, it's unfortunately I was not able to be there, but I'm sure there'll be another chance at some point. So if you agree, what I'll do is I'll start with what we have in the way of a presentation and discuss a little bit what it is that we do and what it is that, our company brings to the table insofar as, like you said, real estate, um, and and um, and just everything having to do with real estate. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes,
Okay, the presentation is up.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So in an effort to do something that would allow the international clientele to fully understand what Argentina is about. And I don't know how many of you there or how many. I was going to do a show of hands thing, but I can't look at people if they're raising their hands or not because I'm not there. But in an effort to have people fully understand the complex animal that is Argentina, not just from a economic or legal or cultural standpoint, and especially on what pertains to us, which is real estate, we've created a series of resources, including ebooks and webinars, including, of course, this one, and videos and so forth and so on, so as to explain everything that has to do with the crux of property purchase in Argentina and why it is that people gravitate towards Argentina because Argentina has this thing about it to where every couple of years it's on everybody's mouth. We tend to be in the news, whether it's for something good or something not so good, the economy or or the Pope is now Argentine, or the World Cup and we're semifinalists, or the food, or well, real estate and how much you can get with your dollar insofar as real estate goes. But that is coupled with the fact that Argentina, while great for real estate investment, also has many other things to offer. Because if the game were only buy low to sell high, sure, a great many people do that, but we have found, and we've done some numbers on it, and we'll see them here, that the reasons why people buy in Argentina are, and lately more so, a plan B or this thing about uh, not having expected what they found when they came to Argentina. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So to begin, um, first and foremost, let me minimize this here. There are two questions that I am asked all the time in all these years. Can a foreigner buy property in Argentina? And the answer is, of course, a resounding yes. Can the government seize a foreigner's property? And the answer is, thankfully, no. As Norris mentioned earlier on, and Martin as a lawyer will, I'm sure, attest to, regardless of all its flaws, for all of its imperfections, private property is respected and has always been respected, which I guess is also one of the misconceptions of Argentina as a South American or third world or emerging country, or however you want to describe it. And real estate in Argentina has been valued in US dollars since the 1970s, which has been really a structural feature, not a workaround. What does this mean? Yes, the Argentine peso has been the currency, the legal tender since forever, with the exception of, well, with the exception for several years, if not decades, to where the peso was undervalued and then overvalued, and then for a while it changed to the austral, and then we dollarized the economy, or actually we pegged it 1 to 1, dollar to peso, and then that sort of collapsed under its own weight. But given that Argentina has that mercurial nature about it, a finance minister somehow indirectly in the 70s valued real estate in USD. And why is that? Because for us, real estate is like the gold standard for other countries. It is the go-to investment, which almost presents itself as much in the same way gold does, in something which is hard, that you can see, that you can touch, that you can grab and look at. So real estate has that about it. And our parents and grandparents would always say to us a variation of what Mark Twain used to say, which is buy real estate. They're not making it anymore. And so there was always this thing about buy brick, comprar ladrillo was the go-to advice from our generations past of grandparents and parents from Italy, from Spain, from Germany, what have you. Um, so it is to this day the single best investment for us locals, and we'll get to for foreigners why as well. Um, Give me 1 second to. All right. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. So the market today, what's happening with the Argentine market today before we get into any of the context? Um, there has been an uptick in volume growth of 45% year to year, um, and a forecast of why is that important? Because that speaks to an abundance of supply. And if you have an abundance of supply, basic economics will tell you that there's going to be too much product and product has to move. Now, of late, I think that Argentina has been undergoing what can best be described as one of the longest running buyer's markets in I don't know how long, if not ever. Um, I think that what we think is that that bottomed out September of 2023. From there, the numbers started to get better, but very, very, very slowly. It has not reverted into a seller's market, not by any stretch of the imagination. But having said that, in 2024, there was a record of deeds signed of 54,761 properties, which was the highest since 2018, which was pre-pandemic. Now, we were already a dying patient on the table as a country, and the pandemic pretty much worked and helped in in um, putting the last nail in the coffin, if you will. So Milei, who's our president, he conducted a reform program which was most significantly reared towards pro-market shift in a generation, which included capital controls easing, trajectory towards full liberalization. Let's remember that he is a liberal economist, which is to say less control, fewer taxes, and of course, fewer taxes um, aid in more economic movement. And real estate, the automotive industry, those are, I think, the two things that kind of are, are a measuring stick to what's going on in any given country. So the ITI, which is Impuesto a Transferencia Inmueble, transfer tax, was eliminated first for all properties pre-2018 and later altogether, which is a 1% over the property, which is to say over a $300,000 apartment, another $3,000 just on that tax. There's a stamp tax, which is the other big tax threshold, which was brought down from 3.5 to 2.7, and even lower still, given certain variables, which we're not going to get into now because it's really, splitting hairs. Now, the prices still are a good 36% below 2018 peak, but recovering. So again, if anybody asks me, do I need to fly down to Argentina right now and buy something? The answer is no. Do I want you to? Sure. I would love it if you did, but no, the answer is no. So, who is buying? Who are the people that we, at least over the years, and sorry, to go back one moment, we're a local real estate firm, to be sure. We cater to local clients, obviously, but our niche has always been the foreign client because we have a sort of an umbrella company to where we don't say, okay, our job is done now. You got to go and find out this other thing. No, we help from A to Z as a sort of a Walmart or Amazon to where you can get everything you need in the same place. Because the reality is, when you're a foreigner and you're buying property in a foreign land, you don't know what the steps to be taken are. You don't know what the processes are. You don't know what the culture is. And there's no reason why you should. So we have a one-stop shop to where they don't have to worry about anything. Myself and my team as brokers, the negotiation of any given piece of property, accountant for what Nora said, the CDI, which is actually now called a quit, but it's the same thing. If someone wants retirement, we work with Martin elbow to elbow. Um, let's see what else. Well, we're able to facilitate the opening of a bank account so that all funds can be brought into Argentina in swift and legal fashion, remotely, and with no need for the person to come into Argentina or do anything. So we have slowly been, over the years and years and trial and error, kind of greasing the machine to where it's become, thankfully, very, very efficient. So anyways, that was to segue into this, which is who are the people that we are seeing buy property? So we've got the international investors seeking dollar-denominated assets at historically low prices. These are the people who are all about the numbers, and that's the only thing they're about. And again, for those of you that have been to Argentina or know anything about Argentina, you know that it kind of grabs you, it pulls you in. I've heard this all my life from classmates, from family, friends, from clients. Yeah, I love coming back. I miss it. I've been away and I miss it. So that's not what the first group is. The first group is strictly about the numbers. Expats and retirees, this is a very common one. They look for quality of life, culture, cost of living, healthcare. Healthcare alone, whatever it is you pay for healthcare monthly in the United States, drop 1 0, and that's what you'll pay for it here. Um, Digital nomads. This is, of course, maybe the 50 and below crowd looking for affordability and lifestyle combination. These are people who maybe perhaps have a less rooted lifestyle. The Argentine diaspora. We've had over the years people leaving Argentina, most notably in 2002, 2001, 2002 was one of the largest instances of Argentine emigration to Spain, to Italy, the United States, what have you, because of our most recent um, cataclysmic financial, event, which is when the one-to-one parity of the dollar to peso collapsed, and then the dollar was no longer worth 1 peso. It started garnering more or losing value towards the dollar. Cut to today, I think it's about 1,300 pesos to the dollar. Family offices, finally, this is a less common one, but portfolio diversification, sorry, for offices, whether family or just business, that are looking to come to Argentina. One recent example is JP Morgan, which I don't know if they used to be here or were never here. I want to say they never were here, but given what they've seen about what's going on in Argentina, they decided to open up offices and I think are renting out 3 floors or 2 floors in one of the more prestigious areas of the northern end of the suburbs, Vicente Lopez. So why are they buying? The reason why they're buying these people, the reason why they're buying is, or a lot of the cases that are not strictly for the numbers, at 35%, you've got, I don't like the direction my country is going in. Uh, I don't want to get political, but whether it's a Republican, whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Canadian with home prices, whether it's someone in Germany who is affected by, I recently learned that Germany is now reinstating the draft because of a fear of communism from Russia. My personal favorite is a guy from Montana who lived fairly close to Strategic Air Command and said, "Look, if the Chinese start to send us nukes, I'm going to be one of the first to go because I'm fairly close to Strategic Air Command." You know, I didn't know really what to answer him, and I didn't have any conversation like that since. But I have had conversations which bordered on that, and the understanding that you're in the southern hemisphere, you're safer from fallout. Now, this is not a fun conversation to have, and I think maybe it's nowhere near to what any one of us would expect or want happen, but they are conversations that we've had. Um, at 20%, I'd say investment and numbers, just as a diversification project. Um, this is also a very interesting one. At the same 20%, we've got people who are surprised and become enamored of Argentina. Ooh, I didn't expect it to be this. Ooh, I love it. I didn't know, the people are so nice. The food is so good. The dollar gets me so far. The architecture. So there is a mix of the Latin flair, which a lot of people, especially Americans and Canadians, have said it's very kind of relaxed and loosey-goosey, and red light means maybe stop, maybe don't. Lanes are optional. A lot of things which you know go with the folklore of Argentina. And what's great about that also is foreigners get the best of both worlds because they get to enjoy the good and not have to put up with the BS of the bad that we do every day. So that's also a good thing. We are constantly thinking about work and elections and government and protests or what have you. But foreigners are it's a project, it's a passion project, and so they're looking at it, I think, from a different perspective. Um, Looking for a plan B, which doesn't necessarily have to mean anything having to do with how their country is or isn't, but just looking for a plan B. And I think that that's been given the recent socio-political context over a few years now, Ukraine, Hormuz, Israel, Palestine, um, you know, situations in Europe. It almost feels to these people as though Argentina has now become a haven for a degree of peace, which maybe they can't find or they don't feel they can find in the countries where they're from. Um, and another one, which is high enough to mention, is that they have met their significant other here, husband, wife, what have you, and they marry, they have kids that are from both countries, and they set up their lives here. Um, okay, so brass tacks. What a dollar will buy you here? What can they buy? Because it's all well and good to say that Argentina is a lovely place and it's got great beef and it's got beautiful women and good-looking men, Martin and I, to wit. And so, what will the money actually get you? So, this is in, I would say, descending order, well, as you can see from the numbers, of importance insofar as prestige or interest of areas were to be at. Puerto Madero sits at $6,100 per square meter, which for us is expensive. It's not a place where anybody can live. Palermo at 3,090 per square meter, more or less. Núñez, 2,900, give or take. Belgrano, 2,800. And the city of BA median, 2,400. So a two-bedroom in Palermo, Hollywood, which is a good area to be at, 250,000 is what it might cost, all inclusive with a broker, taxes, and the notary, $267,100. Can you do that anywhere else? Short answer is no. What is the cost of a square meter in Miami, Brickell? 9,500. New York City, Midtown, 14,000. I think I have two New Yorkers there, or one from New Jersey, one from New York, but I think they know what I'm talking about. Paris, the 7e arrondissement, which is known to be one of the sort of more, hoity-toity and nicer areas, $16,000 a square meter. Lisbon, 8,500. Madrid, 7,200. So $267,000 for a very good location in the city of Buenos Aires, two-bedroom. I don't think I have to sell anyone on the fact that you can't do that anywhere else. I think maybe in New York City you can buy one or two parking spots for that money, maybe. And this is just a snapshot of one of the sections of our site, which is, for example, top left, Recoleta, 4 room, 4 bedroom. Um, a fellow from Ventura, California, who bought this years ago, and it's been a project of his for 18 years. All of my white hairs are because I've been working with him for 18 years, by the way. Just a beautiful passion project. He's gutted it, overhauled it. He's got a view of the cemetery, the Recoleta Cemetery. He's got a view of the river, view of the city. $389,000 for 102 square meters, which is, I want to say 1,200 square feet. I could be wrong. Smaller option in Almagro, which is not one of the ABC1 areas, but certainly an area which has garnered a lot of value with a terrific balcony, 1 bedroom, or well, 20 meter terrace, which again is like maybe what, 250 square feet, $155,000. The third one going from left to right is just a commercial piece of real estate, which I think for the purposes of this conversation is neither here nor there. I think the same applies for the bottom left, which by the way is where we have our offices in Montserrat, which is one of the older areas of town. But the last two, both of them owned by Americans, the one in the middle, bottom middle, is $550,000, and it is a um, city heritage protected building and unit that the cúpula or ay, la cúpula, Martín, the bueno, no me sale la palabra en inglés, pero what you're seeing is part of the unit, looking out the window with the round windows. It's all part of the building, and you've got a view of the Congress, and it's just of dreams. You can't, I mean, imagine trying to buy something like that in Paris. It would be upwards of $3 or $4 million. And the last one at 399,000 has a similar feel. It's a very Parisian building and a very Parisian style, which again, $399,000. These are things that, and you can go on our website to see a full list of everything we have, or go on one of the many MLS sites, which, as Nora said, we don't have just the one. We have maybe 7 or 8 or 9, of which 3 are probably the most utilized ones, both by us brokers and by end users. So let's assume that any one of you is looking to buy a property in Buenos Aires. The first thing you would do is, if let's say you reach out to us, the first thing we would do is we would show you our in-house listings, but let's say that we don't have anything that fits the bill for what you're looking for. We search out, we scour the MLS, the different MLS resources available to us, and maybe after a month, we find what you're looking for. So we put in an offer. Let's say that the property is listed at $250,000. We want to come in at $200,000. So we will present an LOI, letter of intent, which will be exactly that. My intention is that I want this property. I want it for this amount of money, and whatever else you as a buyer might feel is relevant. I want for the AC units to be included. I want for it to be painted before the owners leave, whatever it is. Accompanied with the letter of intent will be earnest money, which I think is pretty much on a par with how you do it in the United States. You'll put down some money indicative of the fact that you are earnestly looking to move forward and that you're not there to waste anybody's time, yours or theirs. So at that point, one of 3 things will happen. Your offer could be accepted, at which point it becomes a binding contract. Your offer might be rejected, at which point you get your money back, or your offer might be countered. And that brings 2 sub-items to it. If your offer is countered, the guy says, look, 200 is too low. Can we meet in the middle at 225? And you say, no, I can't do that. And that can go back and forth for a while, by the way, 225, 220, 218. But if essentially you as the buyer say, no, I can't do 225, I really, 200 is my limit. And they say, well, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. The contract, of course, at that point is not binding. You get your money back. Only instance in which, and Norris made mention of this, only instance in which you would lose the earnest money you put down is if you've made an offer, the offer was accepted, and then you walk out. You say, well, no, I'm not going to buy because of whatever reason. You have a signed contract that you are going to buy a piece of property that the person is offering, a price was agreed upon. You're now delinquent on that contract, so you lose that money. By the same token, if the other party walks out, they say, I've changed my mind about selling it, you not only get your money back, but they have to pay you that amount too. So you get twofold. You left $2,000, you get back your 2,000, and they are liable for paying you another 2,000. Why? Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They made you waste time. In practice, though, I will say this, Martin might attest to it as well as a lawyer. In practice, it becomes a little bit difficult to get that money unless you're dealing with someone, you know, who's holier than thou. He said, you know what? I was wrong. Here's your money. Because more often than not, you have to get a lawyer or go to court. And going to court for $2,000,
Waste
probably
of
not.
time.
Yeah, waste of time. So you've made the offer. All things being equal, the offer has been accepted. Everything is on the move. We do not have escrow companies. We don't have title study companies. And I will get to the notary and why that's important. But one of the many things the notary or escribano does is he conducts the title search. He makes sure that the process is in line with being able to have the seller sell and the buyer buy. And the notary doesn't work for any one part or any one party. He works for both. He or she works for both. Traditionally, the buyer chooses the notary, the seller chooses the place where the transaction is to be held. But don't mistake the fact that the buyer chooses the notary with the fact that he's representing the buyer. He's representing both parties. He's representing the transaction. Because if anything goes wrong with that transaction, he's going to be the one in trouble. And if we have time, I'll give you an example later as to why that is and how a deal that I learned this morning was not going to happen is now again going to happen, thankfully, on Monday. But anyways, he starts with the first batch of due diligence, and those are called informes de dominio y de inhibición. So Martin is the buyer and I'm the seller. His notary is going to get that first batch of due diligence. What does that say? It says Max is who he says he is. He's the actual owner of that property, and Max has no liens or embargoes or debts to his name, indicative to Martin that he can buy and there's no problem. Wonderful. And then you move on to the following step, which is called refuerzo, which is a supplemental payment. Now, bear in mind, all these payments that you're making up until this point go towards the property. This is not anything extra that you pay. All the monies paid up until this point go either to the property or the broker's fee, but it's part of what you're paying. The reinforced or supplemental payment after that clears obviously makes the deal even more binding and acts as a kind of a deterrent, if you will, for anyone to say, I want to walk out. I'm getting cold feet. I'm getting jitters. I'm getting buyer's remorse, that kind of thing. It doesn't normally happen, but it's there in place for that reason. Because when someone walks out of a transaction, whether buyer or seller, well, inadvertently you may be causing a lot of issues because a lot of the time someone who is buying or selling is going to get that money and buy something else. And then that guy is buying something else. So you may well be creating this kind of a domino effect to where a lot of people can see themselves in hot water, to say nothing of us, because we're not going to get paid because for all our hard work, the transaction doesn't go through. So after that payment is made, the notary starts up with a second batch of due diligence, which is the title study and making sure that over the past 20 years, everything with the change of hands of that property was okay, was without problem, was not iffy, did not smell weird. they do that which takes its time. So all told, between the moment that you see something and you want to buy it and the notary is able to get to the deed, could be a month, which is not a lot of time, but they have to do all of that due diligence. Um, so item 6, which is maybe not germane to what we're talking about right now, is if a buyer wanted to, they could do the whole thing remotely. In our case, we handle remote clients all the time. Um, we have only had 2 instances that I can remember where the client said, go and see it. Let's do a video call. Show it to me. Give me your thoughts. And if I like it, I'll just buy it right then and there. Um, which is great. You know, it's kind of a feather in my cap because it speaks to trust, but it's not my preferred way of doing it because what I like and what I see about something might not be what you like and what you see about something. Or maybe, there's any number of things that otherwise very intelligent people would not pay attention to right that moment, and it might have been a mistake. But the times that it did happen, it went by okay. The final step is the signing of the deed, the titling, which again is done with the escribano. And the way that that typically works, and this is the possibly single most jarring and culturally different thing. If anything, if you take anything away from this conversation, it'll be this, if for no other reason than to tell your friends about this. Hey, guess what they just told me? So it's this. Transactions are handled predominantly with cash. And when I say cash, I mean people come with a satchel of money and they plop it on the table and they count it. Sometimes with a machine if you're lucky, sometimes without a machine. And yeah, that's we don't you do see wire transfers from time to time from an Argentine bank to an Argentine bank, or the best situation is if we can play matchmaker to a buyer and a seller, both of whom have a foreign account, push of a button and you're done. But because Argentina has still Argentines culturally, and I think this happens a lot with the 55 and 60 and above crowd, have been burned so many times. I want to see the money. I want to put the money on the table. I want the other guy to count the money. I want to see him sign the deed. I want to get the keys. That's reason one. Reason two is they're getting that money, the seller, and then going and buying something else. That's a lot of time that happens. They either buy something bigger, something smaller, they're empty nesters, a lot of stuff like that. But this is the single most differentiating aspect of buying real estate in Argentina. And it blows people's minds. And I'm always having a little bit of fun reading their grimace when I tell them about, well, this is how it is, and explaining the particulars and how do I get the money into Argentina? Do I bring it in a bag or what do I do? And it's all it sounds alien to be sure, but it also sounds way, way more theatrical than it needs to be. The money can be brought in through a bank. Opening up a bank, we have found now is more easy for a foreigner. It can be done remotely. We often try to negotiate wiring the money from a U.S. account to a U.S. account or Canadian account to U.S. account, what have you. But that is a little bit where the process lies. Now, let's compare a little bit the U.S. Notary Public versus the Argentine Escribano. You're going to know, of course, this better than I. The U.S. Notary Public witnesses your signature, verifies your identity, stamps the document. Supporting role in the transaction is really what he offers and is available at most UPS stores. So the limit to responsibility when you compare to what we're going to go into next is a very low threshold. None of the things that they can do there we'd be able to do here. So the Argentine Escribano, he has to have a university law degree plus state appointment. He is an officer of the law. He drafts the entire deed. And by the way, numbered and special piece of paper, which is then sent to the registrar's office to be recorded. He conducts the title and lien searches, which is something that in the US title companies do. Collects taxes on behalf of the state. I'm the seller. He's going to say to me, okay, so Max, you're going to owe I don't know, $6,500. I give them to the escribano. The escribano turns around and deposits them in the bank for the government. That is what's called a agente de retención. He is the one who collects that money and is responsible for paying the government and informing the government that that's been done. Because it is his responsibility if I say, yeah, I'll pay the taxes, and they're never paid. That's a problem for him. He reads every clause aloud at closing, more often than not.
Imagine.
Sorry?
I said, could you imagine? We have 13 pages on our one contract. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
a typical deed, back, front and back, might be 10 or 9 or 8. They're never exceedingly long, but here's the thing, they're so boring. You know, uh, the apartment is at 2.12 minutes to the left and southwest where it ends with and when I'm there with a client, a few of them are saying, so what is he saying now? What is he saying? But most of them I say, okay, the important thing is the beginning where it says, here before me, the buyer, seller, born on such a date, blah blah blah. In fact, our escribano, what he does is when it's a woman, he just says month and day. He never says year because he doesn't feel it's polite to say what a lady's age is. So, kind of
That's
cute.
good.
But he is responsible for that and responsible for everybody understanding what the transaction is and what everybody is doing. And again, he's there for the transaction. He will say to either the buyer or the seller, the conditions have not been met for this. He effectively authorizes the sale. The escrituras, the deeds, tend to begin with, you know, loosely translated, before me, authorizing notary Max, hereby, blah, blah, blah. So he is essentially authorizing this. He is an officer of the law, which is tasked with, among other things, authorizing the sale of a transaction. So um, he's a control entity, essentially, to that regard. Because it's important to understand how vital the real estate transaction is and how important it is to have someone who knows what they're doing and obviously is on the right side of the law. Um, so he also will register the transfer with property registry. What does this mean? Martin and I are sitting before him. I have sold my property to Martin. Martin has given me the money. Martin takes a photocopy, which is signed and sealed by the notary, but the original one is sent to the city registry, and in about 2 or 3 months, it is registered to Martin's name. It comes back, and Martin is able to pick up the original. And that is what legally is called inoponible a terceros, which is what we discussed earlier about private property and a respect for it. If anybody comes out of the woodwork and says, "Hey, Martin bought that property, but that's not his. That's my second cousin's twice removed brother or sister." No, it's not. Here's the deed. Here's the deed before a notary. It's as simple as that. And so, as we mentioned, the buyer chooses the escribano. This is not a formality. It's something that stems from customary use. You can ask your broker for a recommendation, and if they don't have one, that kind of tells you something. You know that you have to look for someone because everything is recommendation. I think everywhere in the world, really, but maybe not so much more than when it comes to real estate, as well as in Argentina. So that's important. Working with people that after you get to meet them, you get to trust them, you get to understand what they're doing, how they work. How funds move, payment structure. Now, the preferred way is both parties holding foreign accounts, which is what we discussed earlier. Buyer wires the USD directly from their foreign account to the seller's foreign account. The Argentine banking system is not involved. It's faster, cheaper, and unambiguously legal under Argentine law. Again, not to belabor the point, 100% legal to do this. The money does not have to come into Argentina for the transaction to take place. In Argentina, I would say that Statistically, maybe 1 out of 10 transactions can be done this way with no movement of money physically for the reasons we've discussed earlier about how culturally everything works. In our line of work, given that we work a lot with foreigners, both buyers and sellers, that statistic is a bit better to the tune of maybe 3 out of 10, which is still not great, but it does exist. So, what's the alternative? When the seller requires Argentine banking, a specialized bank operating almost exclusively with foreign clients and international transactions handles the transfer professionally within the full framework of Argentine law. And this is based on an agreement that the Realtors Association for the City of Buenos Aires, CUSICBA, of which I'm a member, has set up with brokers. So this has been really nothing less than a godsend for us because it really facilitates things, and this is a bank that works exceedingly well. So, remote purchasing, power of attorney. Once you've visited, chosen the property, and decide to move forward, you can go home. You don't have to stay here. Everything that follows that can be done entirely remotely. There's one document which is executed once, signed before a local notary in your country or at the nearest Argentine consulate. That's a power of attorney. You can leave it here with us, and it can be as extensive or as limited as you want. We authorize Max to buy property and that's it, or to buy this property and nothing else, or to buy this property and for this POA to expire once it's purchased. As limited as you want it to be. You can also do it when you're back in the States. It's easier if you do it here, it's fewer steps. Everything else by way of power of attorney, the quit, erstwhile CDI, bank account, title search, offer, supplemental deposit, deed signing, everything can be done here. You wire us the funds or you leave funds with us, even when it comes to actually signing the deed. Sometimes what we do is we have the buyer from the US or wherever via video chat, and we're all doing the thing. Is okay. Look, John, we signed. Congratulations. So it becomes a very amenable and just kind of fun thing to do. So yeah, as I mentioned, it can be a task-specific scope to where the POA just ceases as in its existence under completion, or whenever it is you as the buyer might say, or maybe not. Maybe you want me to buy it, or maybe you've got family here. It can be anyone. Want to buy something else in the future. And goes without saying, fully recognized under Argentine law. Nothing is done without any skirting of law, skirting of custom, skirting of anything. It's a routine instrument, which, again, we've created ebooks and other resources to that effect. Most recently, what to expect from a broker in Argentina and what they can do and what they should do and what happens in practice and things of that ilk. So let's talk about the bad risks. There is nothing that is without risk. So let's talk about that in an honest assessment. These are the risks that would matter the most. And sometimes some of these are risks, but they're not that much of a risk if you're able to do all the proper due diligence before putting one red cent down, which is what we always suggest. And as with anywhere else in the world, the broker is essentially a salesman. So he's going to want to say, hey, look, this one's going to go off the market. Better come soon and leave a deposit. But I think that's like probably page one right out of the handbook, isn't it? So there is the risk of policy reversal. Argentina's track record is real. Investors with a 5+ year horizon are the right profile for this market. Currency dynamics. This is a risk-ish because dollars, property is valued in dollars. You've got several types of dollars. Official rate, MEP dollar, the CCL, I think we have all told 11 or 12. Each applies differently, and understanding which governs your transaction matters. However, I think it's a little bit of a moot point because you're gonna have dollars, whether you bring them in cash in a satchel or you wire them, it's always going to be dollars. So the peso dynamic is not really going to be something for you to concern yourself with. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people erroneously think that given that, yes, the legal tender is the peso, and that you go to lunch and take a taxi, whatever, you use pesos, and the peso is 13 to the dollar, 1300 to the dollar. Wow, maybe I can make a killing buying real estate. But no, you can't. Well, yes, you can, but not for that reason. The dollar is what governs real estate. The reason why my listings are in US dollars is not something haphazard. It's just everyone's is because dollars or real estate is the single safest investment for Argentines. And for foreigners looking to invest in Argentina, now there are more things that are coming up, such as energy, oil, a whole bunch of things which are not really tantamount to what we're talking about here, but real estate remains the safest haven for investing. Hidden property defects. Now, this one I would say is high up on the list. Vicios ocultos, or vicios redimitorios, as they're called in Spanish and in legalese. I sell you the house and I failed to mention that there was asbestos in it. Probably not great. So what's going to happen is, as a seller, I am liable for that, but you've already bought the place. So best case scenario, there's going to be a few years of legal back and forth and back and forth. Um, Second to last, no escrow system. Escrow does not exist in Argentina. Due diligence must be completed before any money changes hands. And this is something that maybe once or twice has made a deal fall through. What do you mean there's no escrow? How do I know that that the money, how do I know they're going to sign when they get the money? But the question can be done twofold. How do I know that if I sign, they're going to send me the money? So that creates, there is a little bit of a window there to where, as I always say, there's a step one and two and three, but there's a step zero. And what's the step zero? Know who you're getting into bed with. If you are dealing with a person who would appear to not be very professional, who would appear to be somewhat shady, and there is a kind of a thing to where I'll wire the money first, I'll sign later, I'll wire the money first. There are always red flags. And it's normally, well, that's why they call them red flags, but it's normally fairly easy to spot those. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You might, however, be told things that are going to seem very alien because Argentina is about as alien as it gets. But it doesn't necessarily mean a red flag, but there can be red flags to be sure. And then another thing, which I'm only now remembering as a risk is, and I like to tell this to my clients, it's very important that the person you work with or the other broker, if you're doing a dual transaction or in conjunction with, it's very important, obviously, that the other party is not a crook or out to get you. We can agree on that. Now, I don't know if it's as important or as much of a big deal to consider, do they know what they're doing? In other words, it's important that they're not out to get you, but it's equally important that they know what they're doing. Because I've run into people who don't know what they're doing and they have the best intentions, but the road is paved with good intentions, and they're like a monkey with a knife, and they don't know what they're doing. And that can create a problem for the broker, for their company, for my client, for myself. So that's also important. And that's part of the assessment that I guess we make. So we're working with this guy. This guy doesn't really seem to be clear on things. So let's do some due diligence on our end. It might cost extra. Do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? We go through every step just in an effort to, make sure that our clients are protected. And by the way, we're not above saying, John, this is not the property for you. I don't think you should buy it because of this and this and this. Sometimes they've, they heed my advice. Sometimes they don't. They really haven't had any issues by not doing as I've suggested. It's not like I have the last word, but we're not above saying this is not a good idea, or even I think Argentina is not the right fit for you. We love clients. We love to get money. We all need money to live, but if we don't feel that it's something that is a that is a good fit, we'll say it. Um, so quality of representation is a little bit what that was referring to. The single most important decision, who represents you on the ground? Not all brokers are equal in knowledge or ethics. And I encourage you to, from our site, one of the ebooks is the most recent one we did is called Who's Representing You? And I think it's an honest assessment of brokers or something. It's who's representing you? And that gives you a very in-depth description of what it requires because a broker here needs to, it's a 3-year university course. It's not hours. It's a university course and so forth and so on. So that's an important thing to consider. The opportunity for this room, questions your clients are asking. What's next after Florida? Where can I diversify internationally? I have Argentine roots. Should I buy there? Can I buy in South America and USD? Where does my next investment dollar go? I think we've addressed all of these questions, to say nothing of the fact that it's a straight shot from Florida to Argentina, so that's also a plus on a flight. What a Buenos Aires connection provides: a trusted, licensed on-the-ground resource, bilingual guidance through every step, access to vetted listings, including off-market, full transaction management via power of attorney, and clients who later buy in the US, referrals back. So your clients who ask, what's next after Florida? Those may be Buenos Aires buyers, clients who buy in Buenos Aires and later ask, where to invest in the US? Those are yours. So what Argentina offers right now is the thing sophisticated investors spend entire careers looking for: a world-class asset in an undervalued market during a window of reform that hasn't yet been fully priced in. And again, for those of you who haven't come to Buenos Aires, and please do, the first picture is the Congress building at sunset. Second one is Puerto Madero, which is one of the areas we mentioned that was at $6,100 a square meter. So you can see how this is pretty much the Miami skyline or the New York skyline, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why our American clients seldom buy anything there, because it has nothing to do with the ethos and romance and architecture of Buenos Aires. The third one is, I think it's La Boca, which is one of the oldest areas in the city of BA, which is where the Italians first arrived and set up their homes and painted. And by the way, if you've seen pictures of La Boca and Caminito and you've seen that it's multicolored, it's because when they got off the ships, they made their houses from whatever they could and painted in whatever colors they had left over. So that window will close. The window for the opportunity will close. It always does. Is it going to close tomorrow or the day after? No, no, that's not. So with that, I thank you for your time and interest, for the invitation and the honor and the privilege. Again, I would have wanted to be there in person. So I'm sorry that I couldn't be, but I trust that this was, if nothing else, entertaining. And I'm happy to answer any questions or address any comments.
So we do have some questions. So
So you mentioned that there are several MLS-like sites. I think you said like 5 or 6, and there was 2 or 3 that are the most popular. Could you tell us what those are?
Yeah, of course. One of them is called Sonaprop, which is I can write it down somewhere, but it's ZONAPROP, zonaprop.com.ar. Another one I would say is Argenprop, which is instead of Zona, it's Argen, ARGEN, prop for property.com.ar. And then finally, believe it or not, the analog of eBay in the United States, which is called Mercado Libre, has evolved over the years to offer real estate, not just as an end user tool, but also for us brokers. I myself personally don't use it. I've never found it to be much of a tool that's helped me, but I would say it's number 3 for sure, which is Mercado Libre, which exists in all of Latin America, but mercadolibre.com.ar.
.com.ar.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Are short-term rentals allowed over there? And if so, what does that look like?
Are what? Are what?
She wants to know if short-term rentals are allowed in Argentina, and what
They
does
are.
that look like?
Yeah, they absolutely are. That's also a question we get a lot after the fact, after people buy something, because they're concerned it might be a kind of a New York situation, or I think Spain now too, to where it's completely prohibited, but also more importantly, enforced. Because here, enforcing is kind of a, hee-haw word. The law is all well and good, but enforcing of the law becomes becomes more difficult. So let's assume that Argentina did have a restriction for it. I can guarantee you that people would still do it. Now, regardless, it's a oh no, yeah, but it's a moot point because no, it's absolutely allowed. The only thing that of late has been created is a registry to where people who have an Airbnb, they have to you know, list it or register it in the city of Buenos Aires um, you know, website. Now, let me ask you, what percentage of people do you think have done that?
Probably a high percentage.
Throw out numbers.
10%, 5.
10%?
Something like 19%. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So we have another question. What is the biggest mistake foreigner buyers make when they're purchasing a property in Argentina that you've seen?
Not talking to me. No, I think,
May I, Max? May I?
yeah,
May I?
Oh, Mark, yes, Mark.
As an immigration lawyer, I sometimes find the other end of the clientele, people who fell in love with Argentina, they want to stay, and only then they find out they want to buy property, and I forward them immediately to Max, and he knows this. We've done it, but when he says not talking to me, it may come as a joke, but it is. I mean, the importance of who is representing and who is going to explain, who is going to walk you through all of these steps. This is crucial. I mean, there are scammers, realtors who don't know what they are doing, roads paved with good intentions. This happens in all markets. If you go blindly waving, a duffel bag full of cash, I mean, you are exposing yourself. You are becoming a target. So finding people who speak your language. I mean, we don't all speak English like Max does in Argentina. So that's for starters. And we do not all understand the real estate market like he does. He's an authority in this. And, this idea that the market works exactly like it works back in America, I would say it's the most common mistake that people does, and not taking a minute to maybe think that, hey, maybe I should talk to a professional about this. Thinking that you can just go and buy because you know better. That's a very common, painful mistake, very hard to undo once you lost the money.
yeah, I think it's exactly what Martin is saying. But joking aside about not talking to me and what have you, I would say that the two biggest mistakes are actually what Martin said, which is, and this I've seen a lot, assuming that Remax, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, because it's an American firm, is in Argentina. Oh, it's going to be like McDonald's. A Big Mac is a Big Mac anywhere. No, 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 no. It's not. It's run by an Argentine office, independent. So whatever company structure, whatever franchise structure works, has nothing to do with how the person will work in Argentina. So any American or any Canadian or will say, well, I'll go to Remax and it's Remax. But no, that's not the case. And the other thing is, the other big mistake that I've seen is people who like to say, I'm a seasoned investor. I've bought houses in, Lisbon and Paris and New York and Tahiti and whatever. So, how hard can this be? They don't use those words, not the second part, but they say, oh, I've bought property all over the world. So, and then they do come to us. And in fact, we have a specific contract for those kinds of people, which we in-house call the 11th hour contract, which is the people who are already well into the process and are realizing that they don't know what the hell they got to do next. And so we say, okay, look, we can help you. Here's our service agreement. It's slightly different to people who start with us from the get-go, because again, a little bit about what Martin just said. They come in thinking, and these are, by the way, these are people that are otherwise brilliant people. People who are not just dumb and just walking around, you know, without one shoe and without one sock. They're, intelligent people, worldly people. But it would be no different than if I were to go to Florida and want to buy something willy-nilly. There would be any number of things I'd have to know. So, okay, not talk to me, but certainly not understanding, in addition to the process, the nuance and the culture of Argentina. Yeah, context matters. Context and nuance of how a culture works is important.
So leading into that, we would like to hear from Martin, your role in the real estate market. Would you be so kind, Max, and introduce Martin, please?
Yeah. So Martin and I met a few years ago, and we connected pretty much at that moment. I am of the idea that we share a lot of the ethical considerations that we like to exalt for our clients or friends or family or what have you. He's an attorney, he's an immigration specialist, and we started ping-ponging clients back and forth, which has become a very informal business association. We don't really have anything written in paper. We just say, okay, look, we'll pay this, we'll pay that. I have this money for you, I have that money for you. So yeah. And I think it's been great, and it's especially good for me as for my firm, because I have someone that I can know and trust, that if someone says, I need an immigration specialist, look no further, go to him, because I know that he's going to be responsive, he's going to work well. So half the battle in anything you do in Argentina is a quick reply time. And I'm sure the same thing has happened to Martin, but with me, I've had people say, oh, wow, you're the first of 10 people that I've reached out to who's answered. I say, I'm certainly not surprised by that. And I always like to joke that it's not that I'm that good at my job, it's that the people that surround me are just really piss poor at theirs. Because if you get a reply, if you get a request for something and you're not answering the email and you're not reaching back out and you're not following up, you're really not very good at your job. So if at the very least I reply quickly, I try to, go a little bit the extra mile, which is, again, I think we share that with Martin. I think you've got half the battle won right there. So yeah, I don't want to take away any more of anyone's time, but yeah, he can speak more to what he does specifically, but that's how we work together, and it's a great, I think, professional relationship, and I've seen, and clients which I have referred to him have spoken nothing more than wonderful things about him.
So with that note, Martin, could you do your presentation, please?
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me properly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sharing right now. Okay, so I'm going to be short and to the point. I agree with so many things Max said, and I wanted to chip in, but he's more than self-sufficient. The importance of the role of the escribano, the importance of knowing that there is like a public agent, the equivalent of the notary, controlling the transaction, and then you can sue this guy. You can make him civil and eventually criminally liable if he messes up. That's very important. Now, if you listen to Max, he told you come to Buenos Aires because he just. I think people, when you've never visited Argentina before, you ignore how powerful the city of Buenos Aires can be. The European architecture, the food, but the energy of the people, the energy of the city. I think people from all over the world fall from this. And you cannot imagine the number of clients that I received from Max or from other places or referrals that, hey, Martin, I love it here. I just bought a place. Now I want to stay. So here we go. Argentina being Argentina with all its magic, but with all its complications. 5 don'ts, 5 do's, and 5 maybes. If you've been doing any research about how to get residency in Argentina or citizenship, or if you've been following the news, Financial Times, citizenship by investment, my goal here is to give you like a brief overview of what's going on and what will be the best option for a client that wants to buy, but also wants to spend some time, and trust me, they will want to. Once they find that $250,000 apartment in Palermo, which is a beautiful place, they will want to stay. So without further ado, I'm Martin Hitch. I'm an immigration attorney. I have a degree at the University of Buenos Aires. I am an Argentine citizen. I speak English, as you can see, and I've been doing this for many, many years. I have more than 250 American clients only in the last 18 months, and a clientele of around 1,000 immigration-specific cases from all over the world. So here we go, if this allows me. Let's start with the negatives. Let's start with what happens the most common errors, mistakes. What happens? Well, first and foremost, people buy a place. They are busy with the renovations. They're. I'm calling the plumber. I'm calling the architect, and they forget to get residency. And what happens is, they say, okay, I have 90 days. I'm gonna cross. I'm gonna cross to Uruguay. I'm gonna fly myself to Brazil. Maybe go back to the U.S. Visit family, and they come again. They come back for another 90 days. And there's this common misconception that you can be a permanent tourist in Argentina. You can forever go in and out every 90 days, and that is legal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not legal to do this. And in fact, it can get you deported. So people, they do this from, for a year, for a year and a half, and someone at the airport, they look at their passport, they call them aside and say, hey, you need to get residency. Otherwise, you will not be allowed back in. And they don't tell them, but it comes with a 5-year reentry ban. So you should be careful with this. As Max said, enforcement is sometimes optional, but if you do this like for a long time, more than a year, you will be deported, and it's not a nice situation. It's very hard to overturn. Now, you cannot imagine how many calls like, Martin, they warned me, I've been flagged at the airport. Okay, but I bought property. So I probably, that gets me residency, right? Well, buying property in Argentina, as crazy as this sounds, does not get you residency. We do not have a program that allows people to buy real estate and get residency at the same time. And this is, something we are all in this industry working on, because it would be amazing for people to buy real estate and get an easier path to residency, but it's not something that's on the table right now. Another common misconception, okay, then I want to fly back to the US and file from there, and I don't know how long that's going to be. You do not, as an American citizen, you do not need to file or apply for a visa from an Argentine consulate. You can enter Argentina as a tourist, get all your documents remotely, and apply from Buenos Aires or from anywhere in Argentina, to be honest. That's an advantage that many do not know, but I think, if you're assisting a client, or if you're thinking to do this for yourselves, it's absolutely possible to just buy something, stay there, oversee the renovations, and apply for residency at the same time without having to go back to the US. Many international clients, Max mentioned the Plan B people. I get a lot of those. They are thinking they want somewhere to go if the world becomes a place they don't like so much anymore. So in many countries, they make you deposit hundreds of thousands of dollars to get residency. That's not the case with Argentina. In fact, I know this is going to sound crazy, but you only need to show enough solvency to be able to spend $1,500 per month per person. So I mean, you're not forced to bring your assets in. You're not forced to sell your stock and buy stock in Argentina. That's not the case at all. You're going to keep your money in America. You're going to probably keep paying taxes in America. I know everyone loves that part. And you will never need to wire large sums of money. Another common misconception that has been, on the news lately is that you need to stay put. If you apply for residency in Argentina, you need to stay there for 2 years, for 1 year. You cannot leave the country. That's pretty much fake news. Anyone with residency can exit and re-enter the country. In fact, if you want to come and go and if you want to travel a lot, I strongly suggest you get residency, because that's the key to happily bypass border control without being flagged. Okay, now let's see what we can do instead of what we cannot. If this will scroll down, there we go. Well, great news for real estate investors. And I think this is one of the most interesting recent developments in the residency framework that we've been working. If you've recently sold real estate, if you're a real estate investor and you sold something back in the US, it's pretty much the ace of spades for residency. You only need to show the Argentine Immigration Department that you were the owner of the property, that you have a contract of sale, a closing statement maybe, and the bank statement showing reception of the price. Show these elements and you will get residency in Argentina. And if you sold for enough money, let's say if you made a benefit of more than $100,000, you will have a set of documents that will be good to renew that residency for 2 more years, making you even eligible for permanent residency. So clients who have recently sold something and are thinking to buy in Argentina, they may even have a perfect path for residency without even knowing. And this is amazing. And this is something that's, I would say in the last 10 years has started to happen more. The immigration department usually wanted to see, like, people should get a regular payment of 1,500, but they understood that if you have all the money together, why would you have to structure the payments in such a way? So they are accepting real estate sales as a source for residency. Max, and I think we both get this question often. There's no limit, no cap for how much property you want to buy as a foreigner. And there are some development or some new construction sites, and people just, you can buy off plan, you can buy 2 or 3 apartments at the same time. There's no limit as to how many units you could possibly buy. As Max said, and I would like to reinforce this, you can buy property as a non-resident. You can travel for a week, leave Max a power of attorney, and buy real estate. Now, if you were to get residency, it may make things a bit easier down the road. And even more so if you're planning to be a real estate investor in Buenos Aires. If you want to buy 10 apartments and run an Airbnb business, you may want residency. And for that, you need to spend at least 6 months every year in Argentina to keep that residency going, to be able to renew it, and to eventually make it become either permanent residency or citizenship, which comes with a passport. Okay. Now, if anyone has ever read anything about the Argentine passport, there has been some golden visa announcements, etc. Argentina has one of the most interesting and expedited paths to naturalization, right? So people who has no other ties with Argentina, American parents, American born, they come to Argentina, get residency, and they can, after 2 years of legal residency, apply for citizenship without being even eligible for permanent residency. That's crazy. Everyone's like, what? I mean, can I apply for citizenship without being a permanent resident? Yes. The 2-year residency milestone is in our constitution. It goes back to 1863, so that's why it's just 2 years. And yes, people can apply for citizenship. We call it the airport to passport path. You can get a passport in 4 or 5 years in Argentina while you're enjoying Buenos Aires and making the most out of your real estate. So that's great. We have something called a DNI. DNI is like our plastic ID card. It's I would say it's like a fusion between an American driver's license and the social security number. It pretty much unlocks every door. If you want to take the cowboy approach, right, and handle everything yourself, build, you want to buy land and then build, that kind of thing. Well, the DNI will unlock many doors. Being a resident, I would say, makes things easier for those who want to live in Argentina. Definitely, no doubt. Last but not least, Max mentioned before, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Max said the market has not priced all of this in. Argentina has been working and announcing very powerful things. We are expecting maybe next year, maybe if this current government gets reelected, we are expecting a residency by investment program, right? Meaning that maybe a 250,000, 300,000 real estate purchase can get you residency. If that happens, I can only guess. I'm not a real estate expert, and I'm certainly not a real estate expert before you, but my wild guess is that prices will probably go up because they will come with a very powerful benefit of a long-term residency. There has been an announcement of a golden visa, the possibility to buy the Argentine passport. And even if rumors says that it will not include real estate, it could do so, and it could attract a lot of foreign capital, making the most sought after areas of the city go up in price. If you go and do some research, ChatGPT will probably tell you that this investment is probably targeted to real estate, to tech or agriculture, but the truth is no one knows. This is still a work in progress, and we're expecting Argentina to launch very powerful initiatives trying to attract foreign capital. So what Max said pretty much is 100% truth, and I would a trade mission to Buenos Aires next year or to start tapping into this market rather sooner than later, I think is a great idea. We've been
Most definitely.
Yeah, we've encountered a change of the naturalization rules in May 2025 that caused the rumor that I cannot leave the country anymore. It was a bit of an overcorrection of what had been happening with citizenship in Argentina. And people were expected to live in Argentina for 2 years only for the passport, only for those who wanted the passport. Many of our American clients are not really interested. They already have a very powerful travel document. But anyone who is interested in living in Argentina legally and operating in Argentina as a resident, they are not tied to staying put in the country. There is no imprisonment rule for them. Last but not least, rental income. I get this a lot, and it makes perfect sense. Hey, Martin, what if I buy 2 or 3 apartments in Buenos Aires? I buy from Max. I rent them out, short-term, long-term, whatever. Can I get residency through that? I have clients that are already doing this. And the truth is, the immigration department wants to see, crazy as this sounds, they want to see foreign income exclusively. So renting out your apartment in Buenos Aires will not get you residency. Renting out your apartment in Florida will. And we've done this many times. We show the property title of the Florida condo and the rental agreement, and that gets people residency. So it's very, very, and we have so many other options, like, the tango visa, the Spanish visa. You can go and dance tango 2 hours a week and get residency in Argentina. But it's very, very likely that most of your clients are eligible for Argentina residency. And I think that if you're buying, it only makes sense to explore this. Here is our contact. Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
And if you scan this QR code, it will take directly to my WhatsApp number. I would love to be in touch with all of you. I would love to discuss questions, all the paths to residency. If you're in Argentina and you want to send them, been working with Americans for a long time, I would like to be your point of contact. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of you. We greatly appreciate every single one of you. We're going to wrap this up. We appreciate you being part of our spotlight for Argentina. And if anyone needs their contact information, we'll get that to you. So thank you again to all three of you. We greatly appreciate you and your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.